In the vast expanse of the Galactic Federation archives, there exists a story that makes even the most battle-hardened species shudder. It's not marked with any special classification, nor is it hidden behind layers of security protocols. Instead, it sits there, openly accessible, serving as a warning to all who dare underestimate humanity. They called Earth a death world, a savage planet where survival meant adapting to thousands of ways to die. Too much radiation, extreme temperature swings, aggressive predators, and countless pathogens. But what truly set Earth apart wasn't its harsh conditions, it was the species that emerged from this crucible of evolution: humans. For decades after first contact, humans played nice. They joined the Galactic Federation with enthusiasm, shared their culture, traded resources, and learned about their cosmic neighbors. The other species found them oddly endearing. These persistent creatures from a harsh world, trying so hard to fit in among the civilized races of the galaxy. The human ambassador, Sarah Chen, became a familiar face in the Federation Council. She was known for her diplomatic skills and warm smile, always finding common ground between disagreeing parties. Some even joked that humans were becoming domesticated. How wrong they were. It all changed during the Centaur mining dispute. What started as a simple territorial disagreement between the Kraxan Empire and the human coalition escalated into something nobody expected. The Kraxans, confident in their superior numbers and technology, decided to teach these upstart humans a lesson. Your species should know its place, the Kraxan High Commander had sneered during the final negotiation. A Deathworlder's opinion holds little weight in galactic matters. Sarah Chen's smile never wavered, but those who knew humans well noticed something change in her eyes. The next day, she requested an emergency session of the Federation Council. The recording of her speech that day has been viewed billions of times across thousands of worlds. She stood there, still wearing that diplomatic smile, and delivered the words that would reshape galactic politics forever. We've spent years showing you our art, our music, our food, and our desire for peaceful coexistence, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. But there's something we haven't shown you yet, something we hoped we'd never have to reveal. The council chamber fell silent. The Kraxan representative shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Sarah continued. You see, we humans didn't survive Earth by being nice. We survived by being the most adaptable, persistent, and when necessary, the most terrifying species our world had ever produced. What happened in the following weeks would be forever etched in the collective memory of every spacefaring race. The Kraxans, with their vast armada and centuries of military tradition, were about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world, and more importantly, why its inhabitants had managed to become the apex predators of such a lethal planet. As emergency beacons lit up across Kraxan space and distress calls flooded Federation channels, other species watched in stunned silence. Humanity hadn't just been playing nice all these years. They had been holding back, way back. But this isn't just a story about what happened to the Kraxan Empire. This is about the day the galaxy learned that diplomatic humans and Deathworld humans were two sides of the same coin, a coin that, once flipped, would change everything. And as Sarah Chen stood once again before the Federation Council 3 weeks later, her smile was gone. In its place was an expression that made even the most ancient species remember something primal, something their ancestors had felt when they first glimpsed a predator's eyes in the dark. This is how the legend begins, but what happened next would make even the most hardened veterans of the Federation fleet question everything they thought they knew about humanity. The council chamber's adaptive lighting dimmed automatically, responding to the collective tension that filled the room. Sarah Chen's words hung in the air like a gravitational distortion, bending the very fabric of galactic politics. Behind her, holographic displays flickered with real-time footage from the edge of what used to be Kraxan space. 3 weeks ago, you witnessed the beginning of what we humans call showing our teeth. Sarah's voice carried an edge that made several council members' defensive membranes flutter. But what you're about to see isn't about revenge. It's about survival, something we learned on Earth a very, very long time ago. The footage showed what appeared to be standard Kraxan warships, except they were moving in formations that made no sense to traditional military doctrine. As the camera zoomed in, gasps echoed through the chamber. These weren't Kraxan ships anymore. They were hybrid vessels, retrofitted with human technology in ways that shouldn't have been possible in such a short time. In the first 48 hours of conflict, we didn't just defeat the Kraxan fleet, Sarah continued, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. We absorbed it. Every ship we disabled became part of our response. Every piece of technology we encountered was adapted, improved, and turned back against its creators. The Arxian representative, their crystalline form vibrating with concern, raised all four appendages in the traditional gesture of urgent inquiry. But the integration times, the compatibility issues, it should have taken years. Sarah's response was simple. You've seen human children play with building blocks, yes? How they can create, destroy, and recreate in minutes. That's not just play. It's preparation. Every human child learns to adapt, to take apart and reassemble, to make something work with whatever's available. We didn't survive Earth by being inflexible. The footage shifted to show something that made even the most composed council members stir, a human space station constructed from the remnants of 3 Kraxan dreadnoughts, now serving as a forward operating base. It had taken them less than a day to build it. But here's what truly terrifies you, Sarah said, her voice softening. It's not our weapons, our speed, or even our adaptability. It's the fact that we did all of this while following every single Federation law of warfare. We didn't break a single regulation. We just understood them better than their writers intended. The collective mind of the Hive worlds buzzed with unusual discord. Their unified voice, typically harmonious, crackled with static as they spoke. The regulations were written to prevent exactly this kind of rapid military expansion. How did you? Because we read them like humans, Sarah interrupted, allowing herself a small smile. You wrote rules about weapon yields, about ship classifications, about territorial boundaries. But you never wrote rules about how fast a species could learn, adapt, and evolve their tactics. The chamber erupted in multilingual murmurs as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't cheated. They'd simply played the game better than anyone thought possible. But before the council could fully process this revelation, Sarah Chen dropped another bombshell. And now, she said, activating a new holographic display, I need to show you something we discovered in Kraxan space. Something that explains why they were so eager to start this conflict. Something that concerns every species in this room. The display showed what appeared to be a massive structure, hidden in the void between stars. Its design was unlike anything seen before, neither Kraxan, nor human, nor any known species. As the council stared at the mysterious construct, Sarah's next words sent chills through every being present. This structure, Sarah's voice wavered slightly, is ancient, far older than any of our civilizations, and it's not dormant, it's waiting. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light, like a mechanical heart beating in the void. A deathly silence fell over the council chamber as data streams began flowing across multiple screens. The structure's energy signature matched patterns found in ancient ruins across dozens of worlds, ruins that all civilizations had dismissed as natural formations. They had been blind to the truth hiding in plain sight. The Kraxans found it first, Sarah continued, her composure returning. Their attack wasn't about teaching humans a lesson. It was about preventing us from discovering this. They knew that among all species in the Federation, we would be the ones most likely to understand what it truly was, because we had built something similar, buried deep beneath Earth's surface, long before we reached the stars. The High Administrator of the Federation rose from their seat, their bioluminescent patches flaring with alarm. Impossible. The security implications. If what you're suggesting is true, they trailed off, their translator struggling to convey the magnitude of their concern. Sarah nodded grimly. We've analyzed the quantum signature. This device, and others like it scattered across the galaxy, are parts of a network. A network designed to, she paused, looking around the chamber. Well, perhaps it's better if I show you. The holographic display shifted again, this time showing a simulation. The structure's patterns began moving faster, synchronized with similar signatures emanating from various points across the galaxy map. As the Council watched, the space between these points seemed to ripple, like fabric being pulled taut. Our ancestors called it the web of paths, Sarah explained, not hyperspace lanes or wormholes, but something far more fundamental, the ability to reshape space itself. The Kraxans didn't want to stop us from finding it. They wanted to control us before we could remember how to use it. The collective mind's buzz reached a fever pitch. Remember, you speak as if humans. Yes, Sarah interrupted, her eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the hologram. We didn't just evolve on Earth. We survived there after everything else was lost. Those ruins you all dismissed. They're not just ruins. They're our history, scattered across the stars by those who came before. Those who taught us, shaped us, and ultimately trusted us to remember when the time was right. The chamber erupted in chaos as species from across the galaxy processed the implications. Humanity wasn't just another Deathworld species that had clawed its way to the stars. They were the inheritors of something far older, far more powerful. And now, thanks to the Kraxans' desperate gambit, they had finally remembered. Sarah raised her hand, and the holographic display showed one final image, a human child's drawing, found in a cave on Earth, dating back 30,000 years. It showed the same patterns that pulsed through the ancient structure, drawn with surprising accuracy by hands that should have known nothing of quantum mechanics or spatial manipulation. We've been drawing maps to our legacy since before we could write, Sarah said softly, and now, she turned to face the High Administrator directly, her expression both resolute and apologetic. Now we need to show you why the Kraxans were right to fear our awakening. Because something is coming, something that all our ancestors tried to prepare us for, and humanity remembers how to face it. The room fell silent once more as the ancient structure's pulse quickened, its light growing stronger, responding to a signal that only humanity could hear. As if responding to an unspoken command, the ancient structure's pulsing light suddenly synchronized with Sarah's heartbeat. The holographic display flickered, and for a brief moment, every piece of technology in the council chamber went dark. When the systems rebooted, the collective gasp that echoed through the room was universal. The hologram now showed thousands of similar structures, all awakening simultaneously across the galaxy. We thought the Kraxans were our enemy. Sarah's voice cut through the stunned silence. But they were trying to protect everyone in their own misguided way. They found fragments of the truth in their ancient archives, just enough to terrify them. What they didn't realize was that fear is exactly what prevented them from understanding the bigger picture. The High Administrator's translator crackled as they spoke, their usual diplomatic tone replaced by raw urgency. These structures, they're forming a pattern, a network that spans. They trailed off, their multiple eyes widening as the implications became clear. Not just our galaxy, Sarah completed their thought. Look. With a gesture, she expanded the holographic display. The network of ancient structures extended beyond the galaxy's edges, reaching out into the intergalactic void like a spider's web spun across the cosmos. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to survive on a death world, Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. It's our ability to face the unknown without letting fear paralyze us. While other species built empires, we built something else. We built hope. The chamber's air grew thick with tension as Sarah activated a secure data stream. The feed showed images from Earth's deepest archaeological sites, vast underground chambers filled with technology that seamlessly merged with the ancient structure's design. But unlike the alien constructs, these were clearly built by human hands. Our ancestors didn't just leave us maps, Sarah explained, her fingers tracing the familiar patterns. They left us instructions. Every fairy tale, every legend about heroes facing darkness, they weren't just stories. They were preparations, encoded in our very culture, waiting for the moment we would need them. The collective mind's usual harmonious buzz transformed into a discordant screech. The void between galaxies. Something's moving out there. Something massive. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber lit up with urgent alerts. The quantum sensors, designed to monitor spacetime distortions, were detecting movement on a scale that defied comprehension. Not ships or fleets, but something that made entire star systems look like specks of dust. This is why the ancient structures are awakening. Sarah's voice carried a mix of awe and determination. This is why humanity had to remember. Because what's coming isn't just a threat to one species or one galaxy. It's why the web of paths was built in the first place. She turned to face the council, her expression reflecting the same resolute strength that had allowed humanity to survive countless challenges. The Craxans found part of the truth, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. These structures aren't weapons or defenses. They're gates. And humanity. She paused, looking at her own hands as they seemed to shimmer with the same energy that pulsed through the ancient network. Humanity isn't just meant to remember how to use them. We're meant to lead what comes next. The High Administrator rose from their seat, their voice carrying across the chamber with unprecedented urgency. What exactly are we meant to face, Ambassador Chen? Sarah's response was cut short by a sudden shift in the holographic display. The massive movement in the void had changed direction. It was no longer passing between galaxies. It was heading straight for them, and the ancient structures were responding in ways that even humanity's varied memories couldn't fully comprehend. Sarah's hands moved with practiced precision across the holographic controls, bringing up ancient star charts that seemed to move and breathe like living things. What's approaching isn't our enemy, she revealed, her voice carrying both wonder and urgency. It's our exodus. Our ancestors didn't just scatter across this galaxy. They fled here, waiting for the moment their children would be ready to guide everyone home. The massive disturbance in the void resolved itself into a sight that defied description. An entire civilization traveling between galaxies, their technology so advanced it made the Federation's greatest achievements look like stone tools. The ancient structures weren't defense systems. They were navigation beacons, waiting to guide this impossible migration. But there's something else out there, Sarah continued, her expression darkening. Something that forced our ancestors to flee, to hide their children, us in the harshest environments they could find. Deathworlds weren't our curse. They were our cradle, designed to forge us into something that could face what's coming. As if responding to her words, the sensors detected a second disturbance in the void, a darkness that consumed light itself, following the migrating civilization like a predator stalking its prey. The ancient structure's pulses quickened, their rhythm matching the beating hearts of every human in the Federation. This is why humanity had to remember. Sarah's voice carried across the chamber, not just to protect ourselves, but to guide everyone. The Craxans weren't wrong to fear us. They just didn't understand that fear wasn't the answer. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the most advanced. It's about adaptation, cooperation, and most importantly, about facing the unknown together. The High Administrator watched in awe as humans across Federation space began interfacing with the ancient structures, their minds connecting to a network that spanned galaxies. The supposedly primitive Deathworlders were revealing themselves to be something far more, guardians, awakening to their true purpose. "We don't have much time," Sarah announced, her own consciousness now linked to the vast network. The web of paths isn't just for navigation. It's a bridge between galaxies. Our ancestors built it to ensure that when the time came, no species would be left behind, not even those who once feared us. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't asking for permission or cooperation. They were offering salvation. The very species that had been dismissed as brutal Deathworlders were extending their hands to guide the entire Federation through the greatest migration in cosmic history. But just as hope began to rise, the sensors detected something that made even Sarah's confident expression falter. The darkness pursuing the migrating civilization wasn't just following. It was learning, adapting, showing signs of intelligence that mirrored humanity's own capacity for growth. "There's something our ancestors didn't tell us," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide as new information flooded through the network. "The force we're facing, it's us, a version of humanity that chose a different path, that embraced the void instead of fighting it. They've been hunting our ancestors across the cosmos, and now..." She turned to face the council, her expression resolute despite the shocking revelation. Now we have to make a choice that will echo across galaxies, because the only ones who can truly understand how to fight humanity is humanity itself. The ancient structures pulsed one final time, their light reaching across space and time, as the two versions of humanity's future raced toward an inevitable confrontation. The Deathworlders hadn't stopped playing nice. They had been preparing for this moment, when being nice was no longer an option. The real question was, which version of humanity would prevail, and what would remain of the cosmos when they were done? In the depths of space, the web of paths began to glow, ready to guide those who would follow the light, or trap those who had embraced the dark. The next few moments would forever change how every species viewed not just humanity, but their own place in the cosmos. As the dark force approached, Sarah's connection to the ancient network revealed one final truth that their ancestors had hidden in humanity's collective memory, encoded in their music, art, and even in their games. Every human child plays hide and seek, Sarah announced, her voice carrying a weight of understanding that seemed to ripple through space itself. We never questioned why this simple game appears in every human culture, but now I understand. We've been practicing this moment for thousands of generations. With practiced coordination that could only have come from ancient memory, humans across Federation space activated the web of paths simultaneously. The network of structures didn't just light up. It transformed, creating a maze of overlapping space-time corridors that even their dark counterparts couldn't easily navigate. Our ancestors didn't just teach us to hide, Sarah continued, her hands dancing across the controls with inherited certainty. They taught us to seek. Every puzzle we solved, every mystery we unraveled, every challenge we overcame, it was all preparation for this cosmic game of cat and mouse. The dark force, this shadowed version of humanity, found itself confronting something they hadn't expected. A version of themselves that had evolved not through conquest, but through protection, not through fear, but through hope. The web of paths became a labyrinth of light, each false path and dead end designed by generations of human children playing in schoolyards across 1,000 worlds. The collective mind watched in awe as the migrating civilization, guided by the Federation's humans, began moving through the network with practiced ease. You're not just evacuating us, they realized. You're making us part of the pattern. Sarah nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The best way to hide something is in plain sight. Our dark counterparts have been hunting for specific energy signatures, specific patterns, but they never considered looking for life that had learned to dance together, to move as one. As the dark force pursued them through the cosmic labyrinth, something unexpected happened. The very act of chasing the combined signatures of thousands of species working in harmony began to change them. The darkness started to fragment, its unified purpose wavering as it encountered something it had never expected. A version of itself that had grown stronger through cooperation rather than consumption. They're remembering, Sarah whispered, watching as pieces of the dark force began to flicker with familiar patterns. They're remembering who they were before they chose the void. They're remembering what it means to be human. In the end, it wasn't a battle that determined the fate of galaxies. It was a reminder. As the last Federation ships passed through the web of paths, guided by the light of ancient structures and the inherited memories of humanity, their pursuers faced a choice that their ancestors had faced eons ago. The darkness dissolved not into destruction, but into understanding. The two versions of humanity, light and dark, recognized themselves in each other. The web of paths hadn't just been an escape route. It had been a bridge back to who they were meant to be. As the Federation emerged into a new galaxy, Sarah Chen stood before the Council one last time. We didn't stop playing nice, she explained, her eyes reflecting the light of new stars. We just remembered that being nice doesn't mean being weak. It means being strong enough to offer another chance, even to the darkest versions of ourselves. The legend of the day Deathworlders stopped playing nice became something more, a story of reunion, of remembrance, and of redemption, because in the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its ability to survive the harshest worlds or face the darkest shadows. It was in its ability to remember that even in the darkest void, hope could light the way home.